Wes Anderson is a quirky American filmmaker. His films are known for their eccentricity and distinctive visual and narrative style. But what if Wes Anderson made a watch? What would it look like? Anderson has been noted for extensive use of flat space camera moves, obsessively symmetrical compositions, and a deliberately limited colour palette. These stylistic choices give his movies a highly distinctive quality. So, taking into account his film style, what would a Wes Anderson watch look like? Personally, I think it would be a vintage Abercrombie and Fitch. Now, the modern Abercrombie and Fitch is a far cry from its original incarnation. Founded in 1892 as a supplier to the elite outdoorsmen, this high-end company was an outfitter of sporting goods, noted for its expensive shotguns, fishing rods, fishing boats and tents. It outfitted Theodore Roosevelt's safari, Richard E. Byrd's expedition to Antarctica, and Ernest Hemingway was a regular customer. The Hoyer Watch Company started to produce watches for Abercrombie and Fitch in the mid-1940s. The two companies focused on watches that would suit the outdoorsman. The flagship store in New York City had its own in-house watchmaker service, and such was the relationship between the two companies that a young Jack Hoyer, on his first visit to the States, worked as an apprentice in that same watch department. The watches Hoyer produced for the store included chronographs and alarm watches, and models such as the Seafarer and Solinar. Wes Anderson's style can be broken down into three main points: colour palette, symmetry, planimetric composition. Another magazine describes the colorization as very particular. Pastel hues that paint the skies, drench the buildings and dress the characters, offering a retro-like quality that cast the films in a nostalgia for a time that could have been. Muted pinks and mustards through to soft greens and blues. And that colourway is shared with the watches. Many have patinaed and reinforced those same soft hues. But the original was also muted in the Anderson style. Anderson has managed to use symmetry in his composition to build the quirky universe his characters inhabit. They are often staged in a symmetrical pose. Symmetry in watchmaking is long established, and Hoyer adhered to the same philosophy. Another hallmark element of Anderson's films is planimetric composition, the orientation of elements of a scene as flat planes relative to the camera. The actors seem to be looking at the viewer. The characters in a scene aren't viewed from an angle, they are seen front on. And here is an example of a planimetric fight scene.
If I learn you ever once laid a finger on my mother's body, living or dead,
I go to bed with all my friends.
Planimetric composition displays an almost naive flatness. That flatness is also found in the Abercrombie and Fitch dials. Everything is printed flat on the dial. There are very few applied indices and no brand names applied. Numerals, minute tracks are all printed flat, and there is never a date window to break that flat, planimetric composition. Wes Anderson's movies remain quirky, but are strong in design and story. These watches have their own quirkiness too, and the story narrative is strong also. After all, these watches were designed to determine the best times to hunt and fish based on the position of the sun and the moon and the tides. So what do you think? Based on his film style, Is there another watch brand Wes Anderson could design?